Hey guys, it's Vince Casas. You can look me up at vincecasas.com and you can follow me on YouTube. I Today I really want to show you just some real quick tips on aligning vocals. I'm working on a project called Tonight You're Mine, and I did a bunch of background vocals and I did a lead for the verse and a lead for the chorus. And at times, like if you look at the layout, the verse has its own main line, and then there's technically these I think are all doubles of the verse, and then at a certain point in time I had to transition to using a chorus track. Just as I got in the song, I realized that like I needed this transition to work out there. So by design, the Vox chorus isn't necessarily split into all chorus sections there, but if you take a look at it in some points, and then especially at the end of the song where we're looking at this, the Vox verse was used as a lead even though there's still a Vox chorus, and then I have a bunch of doubles in the vocal. And what we're going to do is we're going to line these up so they sound nice and clean. And I've already done this passage up ahead here. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to have sound doubled. We want to kind of have that thickness, but we don't want to have the discrepancies between the breathing and the timings of the S's and the T's and any of the plosives that might happen. So let's take a listen to what our goal is. California skies, tonight you're mine. And even there you can kind of hear, I think, I missed, let's see, I edited this one already, but I think I missed a breath on one of these tracks. Oh, I think it's actually the lead. So what we're going to do, what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you how to set this up in a way where using, instead of actually hard editing, which means cutting the actual waveforms, we're going to use the gain line option to make volume adjustments to actually change the envelope or the ADSR, the shape of the wave and the timing of the wave. It's a little more discreet than the chop. The problem I have with the chop, which I love chopping and I've been chopping them for years, like a hard edit, is that technically you're still not listening to the real version of the waveform. So this is just a little bit of a different approach to it, where like in this example, like right here, you can see there's timing discrepancies between all these. In a hard chop, what I would do is I would go in, I'd hit Command E, and I would actually separate that clip, drag it to the position that I desire, right? And say, okay, well, the majority of them are here, the average of them are here. Take the trim tool, trim me back out somewhere in the middle, and then I'll delete this one. We'll do a crossfade between these two. And actually, this is the batch fade. Really, you could do a crossfade here and a crossfade there, or you can do them together. Just do them as a batch fade. And then that's a goal. But what I'm experiencing, like in that example, that's actually fair. That's a good spot to do it in. Like I could actually come down and do it here as well. Command E, slide it over, and then you can see there's something underneath. So I'm gonna have to pull this back this way, drop a crossfade here or a batch fade here, which is gonna do the front and the back end, or if they're singular, if there's nothing on the tail, or it's just going to crossfade everything in between, and this one would be how long of time we have in between. And there you go. Okay, so we could do it that way. But what I want to show you is doing it the other way, using the gain line in more complex scenarios. And so let me find the problem issue and as it repeats. Tonight, you're mine. California skies. Okay, this is the one that I really want to clean up right here. You hear all sorts of, you hear the vocal closing, and then you hear the breath, and then you hear the T. Okay, so here's the close. Actually, I'll solo this for you. What was it? Skies is the word, skies. So the close and the S, the breath, and the T. Okay. Now I could eliminate the breath altogether, or just pick one person to breathe, but it loses the energy, and that's why I'm going to do this as subtly as I can. So what I'm going to do is I always start by grouping all my vocals. I already have them grouped here, but one way to do it is if you select your vocals and then hit Command G. So right now I'm looking at everybody. I'm going to pick my groups, hit Command G. I'm going to type in Vox, make my group. that group will show up over here. Right now I have them set up as all Vox already over here. I just do that to make sure that I can go into the playlist and duplicate the whole group. And you have to be on medium view. So if you're tiny at all, you have to be at least on medium or larger. You can go to the playlist menu, hit duplicate. It's going to duplicate it all so that any changes we make, we have something to go back to if we don't like. And then we're going to go to view, clip gain line. And we need to activate that. Right now mine's already activated because I was using it already. Clip gain line. It's going to bring that line up in the waveform. I'm going to switch to my grabber tool. And you know, I'm just using a lot of the singular tools. It's a little easier to make larger maneuvers with because you don't have to be at a certain position inside of the region. I'm going to go ahead and decide. I need to make some elections here. So I'm looking at this and I can see there's my lead, and then I got all these groups. And everybody's kind of just trying to land somewhere close in the same spot. Sorry, I was doing this out for you. And you can kind of see, you know, there's some groups that are great and there's some groups that aren't. For whatever reason, the lead timing on this, on some of these transitions was just super rushy. And then as the backgrounds came in, they became more smooth. I think because the lead was a little more aggressive and then the backgrounds were smooth by design. So like what actually has to happen to fix this is like if this closes too early, that's fine as long as we don't hear the hard close. So like it's okay that it ends early as long as we don't hear it end early. And I can actually make this whole thing chop and slide. So like if I wanted to, because I've already duplicated this, I could chop and slide it or make any combination of those. So what I'm actually going to do though is if I'm like, hey, look, I like listening to it. So I'm going to kind of have to decide. And earlier when I was listening to this, I realized, oh, without the lead, I just and if I don't mind the timing of where they're at, then what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to blow up the waveform just a little bit so I can see it a little better. Is I'm actually going to go ahead and say, okay, well, you know, the lead is kind of the to me seems like the biggest problem. And so I'm going to tackle that last. I'm going to get all the groups to sound solid and then move on. And again, if I want to, like these guys in particular, so I'll kind of show you how this will work out. These guys over here are fairly close. These guys are way off. These, obviously the lead's way off. So I'm actually going to make the adjustments with a little bit of adjustment with the lead. So like, watch how this works. I'm going to use the gain line here. And let's say I pick this one and this one to be my go-to. Okay, let's get right here. As long as they're coming down close, we should be good. I'll be looking at the breath. Okay, and we're pretty close. So what I'm going to do is like looking at these, I can tell between these two. This guy ends a little later. I think I'm going to pick this one as my go-to point and then let everybody else kind of align to it. So I'm going to use this as my guide. Looking at this one here, so if I like actually drop my cursor up top, it'll kind of show me. This is about where I want to start to round off. Sorry, I already added this breakpoint, but what I have to do is add a breakpoint on the gain line first, somewhere before I'm about to transition, and then somewhere after, so that I can do things in the middle without affecting the outer boundaries. And then I'm just going to go ahead and slide this up. And I'm kind of basically going to mimic what I see here. So like I'm trying to make this guy look like this guy. Right. And if I really wanted to jump in and get rid of this, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Okay. I just, in my tracks view, I'm just moving this one out so I can just look at just these two side by side. Okay, cool. I see that. Now, obviously the starting point here didn't really start out so great. Now, if I look across the group, ignoring the lead because he's way off. Ignoring the lead, we got a lot of other people that are fairly close, and these are really good landing spots. So what I'm going to probably do is same thing over here, one at the beginning, one at the end, and just tighten it up a little bit. So it looks a little more, this one looks a little more like this. And then I can literally do the same thing down below. If I'm like, you know what, down with this guy, I'm going to do the same thing here. Let's just, oops, sorry, I was way off on that spot, that first drop. So I'm sorry, I meant to be here. Let's just make that a little more like that. Okay, and actually I can pull this down all the way. This one's just going to need just a touch, making sure that before we go in, it's so see how those are all starting to line up? And those two now transition there. The breath, though, on these ones are good. The breathing on these ones are going to be problematic. See how the start of these look like they're fine? They're all lined up. That's great. At this point in time, though, I'm going to have to call for an actual hard edit, and I'm going to have to go in and do some chopping in order to really make this fly. Easy way to do it with these guys down below. The breathing is all the way up to here. The breathing is off. I can see it, right? So all this is up. Really, an easy way to do it if we're just moving it down towards the right is I'm just going to copy it and paste it, and then use my grabber tool, and I could nudge it, but I got a long ways to travel. Okay, and notice we're not 100% there, right? What's the real kicker? You know, got the front end lined up okay, the back ends need to move. Now I could use elastic audio. One thing I just don't like the sound of elastic audio. Oops, personally, that's just something I've never been a huge fan of. Now you can make these transition points at the same place, or you can make them different to kind of hide them. Although the crossfades can be in the same location, the actual transition point will be different. I'm going to open these guys up. Okay, we're close. What I'm going to do is go in. I'm going to add my gain line right here. Now notice who needs to be gained out? These guys right here at the very end of their clip. So I'm just going to look here. Basically kind of doing the same thing with each of them. See it kind of just this natural transition out. I don't want to really necessarily pull them all dead. Oops, actually. I don't want to pull them all dead. So like they kind of need to have somewhat of a natural transition out. Oh, I don't know why I just did that. Oh, I missed it. That's why. So like I don't necessarily want them to go all dead. And even this, so like these come back in. This one could come back in a little slower. So let me add, and to delete, I'm just going to hold Option and click it to remove. So that transition's a little smoother. So let's hear how that's going. Now, obviously, because I shifted here, there's a hard edit here. So I will need to do a quick crossfade between these two positions. Because it's in a quieter spot, I'm going to go ahead and do those at the same actual junction. Now, looking at the lead, we got the same issue with the lead. So with the lead needs to slide. Let's see how far. Sorry, I want to just see if the lead has other major discrepancies. Yeah, well, I mean, it's the lead. The lead's gonna get a little more volume and needs a lot more freedom. But if we listen to this section, guys tonight. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much all just this part right here. This, I think, what a lot of times I like to do is like if I'm gonna make a hard edit, I'm looking for this edit out of the attack, the decay, the sustain, and the release. I'm looking for the sustain to kind of cover me. So I'm gonna copy paste again. So I'm hitting Command C. I'm gonna drop over here. I'm gonna try to extend this as long as I can, but see, I'm still not on. I'm still not there. So I'm just gonna keep sliding. And again, I get to hide this in the sustain. So I'm gonna make this transition happen in the sustain so that I can make this crossfade a little bit longer. Command F to get that crossfade going. And then notice this one's off. This one's off now, right? So I'm gonna have to Command E to separate that one. We're gonna slide on this one too. So this one's gonna slide back towards this way. And because it's the lead, I probably want it to be like the first one to really try to get into that transition. And then I need to look at the back end. What happens at the back end? Is it better to leave it so that it does that transition sooner? We'll know in like just a couple minutes here. I'm gonna do a batch fade and let it roll at its standard default. Let's see where that puts us. Now let's just see where our main is. Guys. Okay, notice that bump in the transition. I'll have to fix that. Guys tonight. And you hear the other wiggle on the other side. Guys. All right, let's see if we can find the right spot to make that fly. Guys tonight. That's the biggest thing about the sustain. So if I'm going to extend a sustain, I got to transition in the middle of the strong part of the sustain. And And then we're really hoping to, I'm going to shorten that one just a little bit still. Sorry, I'm going to shorten the crossfade. When we're actually looking at the wave, you kind of have to keep an eye on where it's at. And like if you follow the wave pattern, you see down, up, and you kind of see that complex. You see those same forms. All of a sudden, this is where the problem exists. And it's that even if we deleted this, you're seeing what it wants to do is it wants to be on its up. And let's see, this cycle. So big, little, we should be on a big in our next turn. We could probably make this fly if we slid this over to just drop on top of there. And then we add our fade here very discreetly. It might still not fly if the val shift is too hard. And still got that bump. But with the group, the other thing I noticed is like with all this is this could use a little bit of shaping here just to get us a little shaping there. The breathing is a little not only loud, but it needs a little shaping. So like there's a couple things that could be done with that. Like if you in the gain line, if you really wanted to take a group and just say, all right, like all you guys need to relax with your overall volume of the breathing, you can go and grab your trim tool and let it flip. You'll see it flip on top of that group. And as long as you highlight them all, right? It's usually the biggest problem when you're in large groups like this. Now you can get really nitpicky or really meticulous and line them up, but problem with it is it takes away from the energy. So you kind of want that little bit of sloppiness to a certain degree to have that touch. Now, I mean, like when I'm looking at this, I'm going, oh God, what happened here? And actually the biggest issue that I hear is, again, in the breathing. So like in the group breathing, let's go get that group breathing down. I mean, that fixes so much just right there in that group. Again, using the gain line. We're not using automation. We're using the gain line in the actual clip. Cool part about that is it carries with the clip and it's always visible. As long as you have it, the view. So yeah, it leads off to too quick to start. So California sky. It's all gonna be the same. So like when you're looking see, I like them. I might just do this. California skies tonight. This one was problematic. You've got you and me tonight. You're mine. The beauty of it is California skies tonight. Easy on that little transition. So it's not too much. So it's fairly subtle. I leave it in the lead, so the lead's got to go. Going on. You're mine. Good. Yeah, this last little breath right here. In the group. I'm going to take this down just a touch, and then we'll doctor the one that is obviously off on its own. It's this one here. Let's see. Basically, I'm just going to, I'm going to extend this part so it's not so blockish. And then pull the front end of it down a little bit. You're mine. You're mine. You're mine. The cool part about this is once they're in, you kind of just go in and make the adjustment to that particular section. Let's go look at where we end up.
But tonight, you're mine. California skies. Tonight, you're mine. You, California skies. Tonight, you're mine. You and me tonight. Tonight, you're mine. California skies. Tonight, you're mine. California skies. Tonight, you're mine.
A lot of the original edits were actually made while tracking.
Tonight, you're mine. California skies. Tonight, you're mine. Oh, you've dared to reach the heart of me. Mine.
Yeah, I mean, like this last part, depends on how loose we want to leave it, but we could trim this down. Kind of hard to track the movement. We could align the movement. Or we could just drop out just for a section here. Sounds like it's that wind up back here.
Oh, you've dared to reach the heart of me.
A little less
In California skies tonight. California skies tonight. California skies.
All right, and there we go. There we have it. A little bit of a combination of using the gain line and a little bit of, at points we just have to make a hard edit. But again, I like it better than using Elastic Audio because you don't get to hear the nasty artifacts that Elastic Audio creates. And in this day and age, a lot of these, like when you create things like this, the vocals might very realistically be stemmed out and maybe remixed in some other form for some other reason. And so you want to make sure that you're just you're getting all those things aligned in a way that they can be used and that they sound great when they go out. So awesome. See you.